tradition with movies that have been consistently pushed back. Because, we talked about Death on the Nile, which was supposed to come out in 2020, and it just kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And now we come to this movie, which was not pushed back as often, but seemed like it was constantly being, moved, because it was supposed to come out in December of 2020. Then it was supposed to come out at the beginning of February, then the middle of February, and now finally here we are at the end of February, and the movie is finally released. And it's really irritating when that happens, and you have no idea why it's going on. And especially when there's a concept and a premise here that you really, really want to see. A modern, not so much a modern adaptation, but a new adaptation of a classic piece of literature starring one of the most charismatic performers working, a new take on a material, fascinating casting with a skilled director at its helm. This is a movie I wanted to watch, and wow, what an experience this was, because this movie leaves me in one of those phenomenal locations where I am excited about this movie, but I am also very excited to talk about this movie because there is a lot to get into. There is so much, and I feel like this is going to be a very very two-sided review, because on the one hand, there are things about this movie I truly love. Truly, truly, truly love. And there are things about this movie that are unbelievably baffling and seem to ignore the very basic rules of the genre. So it's so duplicitous. It's a film about writing and language, and I find I am at a loss for words. So I'm going to do my best on this one, because there is just a lot I want to get into. Let's talk first about what works. So before we get into it, in case you've never heard the story, which would be very difficult if you hadn't, Cyrano, a new adaptation of the classic play Cyrano de Bergerac, is about a man in the original play, a man with a very big nose, who falls in love with a beautiful girl by the name of Roxanne, but he feels that she could never love him because of his appearance. She is also in love with the handsome Christian, who is a new recruit in Cyrano's regiment. Cyrano, wanting Roxanne to be happy, agrees to help Christian woo her. Cyrano uses his poetic mind, his gift for expression, to woo Roxanne under someone else's name. And it's a love triangle, or it's a love square, because there's another person involved, and it's all that kind of thing. Of course, it was in the 80s. Steve Martin did a version of it called Roxanne, and now we have this version wherein Cyrano, as opposed to being a man with a big nose, they reimagine the part as a little person, as a dwarf, played by the amazing Peter Dinklage of Game of Thrones fame. And I am fully in favor of all of that. Every single bit of it. Peter Dinklage is, without question, one of the greatest actors working right now. Hands down, full stop. He is just so good. And I think that's as good a place to start as any. Barnabas was trying to fall over there. But we got to talk about the entire cast. But heading up that cast is Peter Dinklage. And God, what a performance. What a masterful performance. This guy shows why he is one of the best. And Cyrano seems like a character written for him and his unique acting talents. What I love about his performance in this movie is, God, you can just read every emotion on his face. You can see how much he loves Roxanne, how much it pains him when she favors someone else, how much he wants her to be happy and does his Peter Parker impression of putting her first, even if it kills him. And, you know, just when he is heartbroken, or when he is wooing her under Christian's name, the famous balcony scene, God, you just see it etched all over his face. It is magnificent. It is a phenomenal performance, and that alone is worth the price of admission. Just to see his take on it and just how damn good he is. But what I also really like about Peter Dinklage as an actor is that I think because he is used to being in ensemble pieces like Game of Thrones, he knows how to be the lead in a film and to be the emotional center of it, but not overshadow everyone else. This is truly an ensemble cast. This cast works together and gels, and they truly make those kind of, you have to believe the love story, the various love stories. You've got to believe that everybody is in love with everybody else, and that their feelings are true and genuine, and that the choices they make, for good or ill, are all still based on true emotion. And that really comes through. These actors are all working so well off each other. This is a great example of what acting teachers are always telling their students. You know, acting is not just getting up and, you know, reciting your lines back. As, you know, Mr. Lawrence's second rule of theater, acting is reacting. And you need that other partner to react off of, to feed you emotion, so that you can build off of it. And these actors are just killing it. The entire cast is amazing, but special credit has to be given to Haley Bennett playing Roxanne. She is just magnificent. And Calvin Harrison Jr., who plays Christian, is also pulling his weight. You know, Christian in the past is kind of a bland character, or in the Steve Martin version, he was portrayed as kind of a dumbass, you know, a hunky guy with no brain. So Christian's kind of a difficult character to get a handle on, but Calvin Harrison Jr. does it and gives him a soul and an emotion, and that's really difficult to do with this character, and he does it just admirably. And again, Haley Bennett, who has to be the object of affection for no less than 3 different people, and has to have a relationship and a personality that complements all 3, and she does it so effortlessly. And I don't know if that's her or the co-stars or the directing or a combination, but it's a great performance. So Peter Dinklage deserves all the credit he is getting for this film, but I feel that the other actors need to be acknowledged as well for how much they are giving. And it really does feel like watching, even though it is with modernized language, more open casting, which works in the film's favor, but it really does feel like you are watching a grand theatrical production. The emotions are big, the human connections are big. Everything is bigger than life, and yet so beautiful. And we've got to give, if we're going that route, we have to give huge props to the director, Joe Wright. I was trying to think, as I was watching this movie, how would I best describe Joe Wright's directing? What would be the word I would use to describe his style? And honestly, and I think it fits with some of the stuff he's done, the style, I would call it, is literary. Watching his movies, and I think of this one, I think of the Pride and Prejudice he did with Keira Knightley several years ago. I think of Darkest Hour, which he did with Gary Oldman. And his movies are so immaculately framed. The compositions are so striking. The scale of them is massive, and the beauty of them. Even in dark moments. There is such beauty in his camera work. He is the perfect person to direct this film, because again, it is all about love, and this movie is a love letter, and watching it, you feel that. Even, again, in the most gruesome of moments, it completely sucks you in. The only qualm I would have with his directing and his directing choice is the final scene, where I don't know if this is a spoiler alert, since the play is well over, a century old, more than that, 2 centuries at least. So I don't think it's a spoiler to say that, the final scene, Cyrano's final scene, as written, is supposed to take place under this beautiful tree. And here it takes place in probably one of the ugliest locations I've ever seen, for such an important moment. So I don't know why he made that decision to change that, but he did, and there you have it. But that's a minor quibble. I think otherwise the directing of this movie is second to none. It's gorgeous. It gives it the size and scope that it deserves, and you can see his fingerprints working with the actors too. The dialogue is sharp, the characters are all well defined, and the actors are clearly having an amazing time working with each other. So there's the theater nerd in me and the director in me is just gushing over this movie, and yet, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. The thing that I suspected when I saw the trailer, but was not confirmed until I watched the film. And that is that this is actually a musical. Now, apparently the stage adaptation that they took this from is also a musical. Which is interesting. Now, taking Cyrano de Bergerac and turning it into a musical is not a bad idea. Not at all. And before the movie played, during the commercials that they have on in the theater now, they had a little making of thing on this, and they were talking about making it a musical. And what they basically said is, in the play, and this is true of plays of this era, there's just a lot of dialogue. It's in that same vein as Shakespeare and all that, even though this was after Shakespeare. But still, the language was very important to classic playwrights. The complexity of the language was a sign of the playwright's stature. And so, yes, there are long things in the play where people just go off on long monologues or soliloquies, or they talk for an hour to say a very simple thing. That's common of that style of writing. And the people who adapted it said, well, what if every time they did that, instead of just talking for a long time, what if they sang it? Okay, that is not a bad idea. That is not a bad idea at all. I was actually thinking as I was watching it, what if you did that with some other, like Shakespeare, instead of soliloquies, what if they were singing their emotions? It's not a bad idea. Where it becomes a bad idea is when you have people writing the music who, as far as I can tell, and if this proves to be wrong, I will somewhat apologize, but when you have people writing the music who have absolutely no concept as to how a musical is supposed to work. So, from what I understand, and again, I did very, very brief research for this, the folks who wrote the music for this play and now this movie are not established stage musicians. They're rock artists. The main songwriters I could find, Mont Baring, and I'm saying their names wrong, and his wife Karen Besser. Just in news articles I pulled up on this guy, they list him as rock's melancholy king, the king of melancholy. And after seeing this movie and getting just a sampling of his work, that is an apt title. Every song in this film, with very few exceptions, is exactly the same. They are all melancholy, depressed love songs. There is not a lot to distinguish one from the other than its placement in the story. Now, that's a fine idea for a concept album, but it does not work for a musical. I'm at a point in my intro to theater classes right now where we're talking about musicals, and I was teaching them a few weeks ago about the different types of songs, where they fall in the show, what their purpose is, and how they serve the greater narrative. And the thing about that is that in almost every major musical, all of those songs are different types. You know, your opening number, your I Am song, I Want song, your showstopper, your 11 o'clock number, your ballad, your exposition song, your character song. You know, they are all different so that you are expressing different things and therefore propelling the show along. Take a look, example I always use. Take a look at Fiddler on the Roof. The music all the music in the first act is very up and very hopeful and very positive. Even something like Sunrise, Sunset is still a song of hope and happiness. And then in Act 2, our songs become much more dour and melancholy. But even then, they have their own tune and their own service in the script. These songs, they are all just dour, melancholy love songs, and as such, there is very little to distinguish one from another. Nothing stands out, and nothing serves a greater purpose in the narrative. Now, it's not to say that they are bad songs, with one exception, and we'll talk about that in a second. They're not bad songs. A couple of them are pretty good. The opening number isn't too bad, even though it's clear he has no idea what an opening number is supposed to do. The 2000, they're all the same. They're all the same. They're not bad, but if you're looking for a, This Is Me or Surface Pressure, you're out of luck. None of these songs, again, with one exception, are going to stand out. Again, they're not bad songs, except one. The villain song is one of the worst songs in a musical I have ever fucking heard. It is so bad, and it starts to point out the weakness in all of the other music of the show. The music is, again, every song sounds the same, tonally, rhythmically. The lyrics are rudimentary at best, and I am not a huge fan of Lin-Manuel Miranda. Becca will attest to that, but I respect him as a songwriter, and he has an amazing gift of rhyme schemes. His rhyme schemes are fascinating. Here, these are, fall, wall, love, dove, very big. Todd in the Shadows would be falling asleep at this music, and that villain song is the worst of the lot. Not to mention that the actor playing it, I have the feeling, was not a very experienced singer, and it's the worst sung film or song of the lot. It is, oh my god, it is terrible. It's not to say again that the songs are used in a poor way. Joe Wright directs a lot of the songs very, very lovely, with kind of anachronistic, not so much anachronistic, but out of place dance moves going on. But it's still a very beautiful style of directing. Probably the one that stands out to me in terms of the directing of the number is the first time Roxanne gets a letter supposedly from Christian, but really from Cyrano, and she is basically orgasming reading it, and it's directed like that. But it's it's fascinating directing. Now, I feel if I'm going to bitch about the music, I do have to talk about the one song that is really good. The rhyme scheme is still fairly simplistic, but this is the only song of the show that feels like it belongs in a musical. It feels like it is there to service the narrative, and it feels like it is a unique creation of its own. It's not just the same tone and everything. And it's the one song that really, really got me. There is a moment when they're at the war, and they're about to go advance, and the commander tells the kid to go collect the letters from home, and the soldiers are all singing these songs about the people they're sending letters to, how much they love them, and, tell them that, heaven is wherever I fall. This is a beautiful song. This is a great song. I really dug it, and I'm in the theater, and it's the one part where I'm kind of welling up. Because it's like, wow, that captures that moment so profoundly. So that's the one place where I feel like the songs actually contributed to the narrative and was a unique creation of its own. Again, it's not that the other songs are bad, it's just they're repetitive, and they would start singing and I would immediately tune out, because it's like they're just going to sing the same thing over and over again. But that song was fucking awesome. So I don't know. I'm in a weird position because I like this movie. I don't like this movie musical. And I feel like it could have worked if you had gotten, a better songwriter. Ironically, in this movie about somebody who is a brilliant writer filling in for someone who is not, I feel like the dialogue was written by Cyrano, the songs were written by Christian. That's my concise review of this. So I'm not going to say it's heartbreaking or that it ruins the movie. I just think if you're going to go there, you need to go there correctly. That's just the musical lover in me. So yeah, I want to keep belaboring the point, but then I'm just repeating, I'm doing what the songs are doing and just repeating myself. So let's wrap this up. Let's bring this one home. So final grade for Cyrano. I'm going a solid B on this. Solid B. Actually, no, we're going to go a B+. As I was talking, I talked myself into the B+, because honestly, the directing, the acting, the adaptation all works. Everything works so well in this movie. All of it. It is worth seeing, and I want people to see it for those elements. And that one really great song. The rest of it, the musical aspect of it, weak as water, with that one exception. I still think this is a worthwhile film, but it illustrates the importance of getting somebody who really knows how to write music to write your music. So there it is. That's my point. Okay, but I am glad I saw this, and again, I encourage people to go see this for the amazing performances and gorgeous directing. It is worth it. And again, songs not bad, except for that one. They're okay. So, there you have it. Thank you very much. I hope everyone is doing well. I know, as I'm recording this, the world is going crazy again. We get done with one fucking historical event, we go right into the next. So, I hope everyone is holding up all right. I hope everyone is, pushing through, keeping calm and carrying on. We'll get through this one, and I'll be here, Becca will be here, the film crew will be here, the movies will be here, and as long as they are, so will Drive Home Reviews. So until next time, thank you very much, and as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.